Welcome into another episode of Kollectiv Knowledge. I'm your host, Shane Barrett. You can find me on Twitter at FFShaneB. And joining me tonight for our 15th episode, crazy we've made it to 15 already, is a writer for Dynasty Pros and the IDP guys. So if you're keeping track, that's two IDP guys in a row. And it is the Fantasy Ladder, or Steve, if you know him well enough. Steve, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing really good. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. It's the end of the week, so if you have ever had a sales career, you know I'm under a little bit of pressure to perform this week. But other than that, it's going pretty well. Um, so yeah, life's great. How about you?
Good. Just very busy. Just a lot of good stress, is what I call it, just with family and now being involved more in the fantasy football community. It's like a fun little thing I do on the side and on top of my normal 40-hour work week. So, just a lot of good stress, but a lot of work at the same time. Margins are thin, but can't complain overall. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So as usually happens around this time in the show, got to pay the bills. So we'll do a quick ad read, and that is for Thrive Fantasy. So come prop up on Thrive Fantasy this football season. Thrive is a daily fantasy sports and esports app for player props. You choose 10 out of 20 available player props. They have other game modes too that are pretty fun, like versus. So you pick Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr, and Derek Carr has like a 30-yard bonus to give him kind of to make it even. So then you got to pick who's going to score more or who's going to have more yards. So you choose those props. Each prop is assigned a point value based on the over or the under and how likely it is to hit. The more points it is, or the more likely it is, the less points it is. So if you take the over on something that's not likely to hit, you get more points. So you hit the most props, you rack up the most points, and you win a share of the prize pool. And it's really easy to win money. I've won pretty much every week that I've played so far, and I'm up a significant percentage from what I put in. So you can join me with promo code FFShaneB on the Thrive Fantasy app on the App Store or Play Store, or at www.thrivefantasy.com. Sign up and prop up today. So Steve, you ready to get started?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So we'll start with the first question that I always start off with this. And when was your first fantasy football league?
First league began 2005.
Okay.
So I was a junior in high school at that time. So I'm
Nice.
now 32.
Okay.
So 16th year playing. So I've been playing for exactly half of my lifetime, which is weird to say. But yeah, so 2005 is when it all started.
Very nice. I think that's actually when I started playing as well. I won't age you too much, but I was a little younger than you.
Fair enough.
Not much. So is that first league still going?
Yes, it is. Yes, it
Awesome.
is.
I
Yep.
think you might be the first, maybe the second person to say that it is still going. So who kind of makes up that league? Like, is it family? Is it friends? And then what are the league settings for that league?
Yeah, so it started as basically 8-team league, just friends from high school. We just want enough guys to try to fill up just like a minimum league. And then over the years, it has grown and evolved to college friends from where we all kind of dispersed and went to college.
Nice.
So we started as an 8-team league. It is now a 14-team league. So it is a little bit deeper. It is like the big one that I do all the prep for, and
Yeah.
everything else. I mean, every league matters, but this one's a little bit more than the rest. So yeah, it is a 14-team with limited keepers.
Okay.
So there's a redraft element, but there's also
A dynasty element.
a dynasty element as well. We do off-season trading and things like this. So it never really stops, so which is great. We do auction draft style, so that just adds a little extra twist to the keeper element, because our keeper rules are whatever the drafted value was, you take that number, it carries over, but then you have an average of that drafted value with the ECR value the next year. So if you like really hit on, say, like Justin Jefferson last year, you only got him
Yeah.
for like $2 or something, and the ECR value had him this year as like a, I don't know, $22 player. Well, he's yours for 12. You know what I mean? So you get him for like almost half price or
Okay.
something. You know what I mean?
Cool. Yeah.
So there are a lot of nuances that can occur in the draft and trading, during the
Yeah.
season and in the off season. You can trade draft dollars and stuff to try to acquire talent. So like last year, real quick story, I traded away a lot of my keeper assets to make a playoff run. Lost in the first round by less than a point, but that's neither here nor there. So in the off season, I was very busy because since I had no really solid keeper options, I spent some of my draft budget to try to get some good keepers going into this season. So it is just a really fun way of doing it. So 14 teams, pretty much a standard roster. We did get over the years, we have changed up a lot of the rules. So we no longer have defense or
Okay.
kickers,
Okay.
but we added 2 flex spots.
Nice.
So 8 bench. So it's very deep. Like the waivers are pretty thin, but if you know what you're doing, it's never that thin.
Yeah.
So it's pretty intense. So it's a ton of fun, and just a league full of like apex predator level like competitors. So it's really cutthroat all the time. So it's great. Yeah.
Nice. I actually joined a similar league, it sounds like, that's now my home league, with Jay Felicio, G-Man J.
Awesome.
It's a soup 10, but it's 10 teams, Superflex auction keeper. And yeah, I'm not doing so hot, and I don't want to be the loser because there is punishment in this league, and I'm not
Oh,
looking forward to it. So I've made some trades, made one today, and hoping that will help turn me around. So, um,
nice.
all right. So, what are your favorite league settings? So, I don't know about you, Steve, but I'm in a lot of leagues, probably too many.
Right.
But if you ask me, I'd probably join another. Um, so my question is if you're at that point, like you're in too many leagues, but you would join one more, what are your perfect settings for that league? What are your favorite settings that you'll be like, yeah, I'm in?
Basically, any league that can maximize the engagement and
Okay.
the league wide activity is one that's going to be more appealing to me. Really a big fan of Superflex. That just makes so many more trades possible.
Yep.
Just opens the door to more activity. For example, like Case Keenum, he was like an afterthought until last
Mhm.
week, and then blow half your fab on him to. Especially with the bye week situation of last week, it's like, hey, you'll take those 12 points. It's better than taking a shot on whatever, right? Like some like
Mhm.
PPR upside running back, for example. So
Yeah.
any league that can maximize the engagement and activity league wide is one that I'm going to be interested in. So I think Superflex does that. I think, let's see. But to your point about being in too many leagues, at this point, if I were to join another league, it'd be a best ball, just so I
Yeah.
don't have to spend 3 hours a night, which I'll have to do unfortunately tonight. See if I need to add anybody in my one of 26 leagues. You know what I mean? So most of them are
If it
management
makes you
style.
feel better, I have you beat.
Oh wow, okay, yeah,
So, but yeah, I completely understand that. I may have a league for you, and I actually I think I have an opening in that league, so I'll let you know this off season.
okay.
It's very very intriguing, um, and it's my favorite kind of league so far. All right, so when did you start making fantasy football content?
I started in July of 2020.
Okay.
And so why then
Yeah.
basically this is for context, right? This is at the height of the pandemic,
Yep.
and probably the most degree of uncertainty. At this point I was temporarily furloughed from my day job,
Okay.
so I was like, well, you know not really sure what's going to happen there. I'm really passionate about fantasy football. I feel like I have enough experience that maybe someone out there might care what I have to say about it. So I just started to put some stuff out on Twitter. I was kind of familiar with Twitter. I was not familiar with the whole fantasy football community aspect of things. So I just started putting stuff out there, and yeah, so it was mid July 2020.
Nice.
Just wanted to see where my passion could go.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
like I had nothing to
Um,
lose. You know.
yeah, I love that. I feel like a lot of people started with that, and it's kind of it's nice to see people sticking with it and continuing to produce content. So I'm happy you're here and happy you
Oh,
found the industry.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, same.
So, what was your first piece of content?
Uh, the very first thing I posted, which was just like, let's just throw this out there, see who gives a crap, you know. I did a mock draft with one of the bigger like Instagram accounts that I follow. He hosted a mock draft on Fantasy Pros,
Okay.
and I went through the mock draft. I said to myself, I want to try to draft the best team possible as always, and then just kind of post the results and
Yeah.
see what happens. So in this particular mock draft, I had like the highest grade of the draft and all these things. So okay, well, this is a good place to start, right? I got like a 96 out of 100 or whatever. So I just put that out
Attaboy.
there, and from there, just I got my first like. I was like, oh, yeah, a little bit of excitement there, and then couple followers here and there, just like smattering. And then what I started doing was like team by team breakdowns. I just would go through each offense and just say, you know, who the quarterback is, who the running backs are,
Yeah.
what the wide receiver situation is, and how I would feel as them as like my RB1 or RB2. Is this an offense I want to target or not? So I did enough of those, and then that sort of got the attention of the writers at Dynasty Pros. And then that turned into my first article series. I just went through like the whole league, division by division, and sprinkled in some like other elements of things I want to include, like what I call my ladder picks, right? Or like my guys.
Yeah.
So like last year would have been like, I don't know, the one that didn't work out so well was like Zach Ertz or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
like I would going through the Eagles, I would say, you know, whoever, and then Zach Ertz, who's a ladder pick, and this is why. So yeah, so that was just something I just kind of just did like threads, and then that turned into an article series eventually.
Okay.
So yeah,
That's really cool. Next off season, once we get to who your favorite team is, I'll have to have you on for your division breakdown because I started an article series that sounds kind of like yours, but just different enough. But I think it'd be cool to have your perspective on there for your team's division. So we'll get that on the calendar for next offseason.
that sounds great.
So then next question is, what is your favorite thing about the fantasy football community?
Yeah, so just this is very easy. It's just the actual friendships that have come out of it. And it's very weird to say because I I haven't met hardly anybody.
Yeah.
I just know them like through tweets. It's like very bizarre, but it is true. You get to know people, you join leagues with people, and then it just becomes this like camaraderie that's just very unique. Like these slow drafts, so that can last 3-4 weeks. You're just in like constant contact with people in the league, and it's great.
Mhm.
So yeah, I have like a very real friendships with a good handful of people, and I have met one person who I met through fantasy Twitter. I found out that they live in my hometown, and we've met up a couple
Awesome.
times at like a local brewery that we both enjoy. So it's just like really really
Very cool.
neat to have that happen. But just the total vastness of the content and perspectives just was really kind of addicting. It just really sucked you in, and then the actual friendships that can come out of it is just it's very remarkable.
Absolutely. Four of
Yeah.
my closest friends came from fantasy Twitter. One of them lives in Massachusetts. One of them lives in California. One of them lives in England. and then the other one lives in North Carolina, and
There
that's
you
Jay.
go.
And so I've actually got to meet Jay and a couple other people from Twitter. So I I love it.
Yeah.
Love that answer and love that perspective. So now we're gonna stray slightly away from football for just a minute. So tell us a little bit about yourself outside of fantasy football. You and I were talking pre-show. So are you married? Do you have kids? What's your day job? Where are you from? Different things like that.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, um, always lived in Pennsylvania. Born technically in Philadelphia, but always grew up in the suburbs of Philadelphia.
Okay.
I am married. My wife and I celebrated our 10-year anniversary over the summer,
Congrats.
right around Scott Fish Bowl time. So it was a very
Okay.
exciting time there. And we have two boys, a 4-year-old and almost a 6-year-old. And something else, I went to Penn State University, so I'm very passionate about Penn State football, just Penn
We're
State in general.
we're not friends right now.
That's right.
I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Well,
That was a great game.
it
Like
actually
I
was a
really
very good
enjoyed
game.
that
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, I did see you had a tweet about the loss, and I was like, that was a tough one, but at least it was a good game, you know.
Yeah.
And then since then, Penn State has just not done well, but it is what it is. It's fine. But yeah, so just Pennsylvania in the Philadelphia area, and day job, I work as a medical consultant. I
Cool.
do evaluations for people who've been injured at work. So I see
Awesome.
what their capabilities are, if they're able to return to work in a certain capacity, or if not, we just want to communicate that to their treating doctor or their lawyer or their employer, whoever's
Yeah.
asking for it. So that's a
So
very unique job. Yeah.
here's a question I have for you. Just from my prior experience, do you have to deal with insurance companies? Like, do you personally have to deal with them, or are you basically just like the guy that does the report and sends it to and gives it to the patient so then they can do whatever they need to? Or do you actually have to deal with insurance companies? Because if you do, I feel for you, man.
My main role is to like schedule clients and then meet up with them, do the actual testing, do the report writing. I basically just hand that off to my office, and they're the ones who has to handle all that mess. So down the line, there is potential that I could be in that kind of a role, right?
Yeah.
But at this time, I don't have to do very much with that. Every now and then I do,
Yeah.
and that is rough to say the least.
Yeah. If anyone's watching and they work for an insurance company, I do apologize, but insurance companies just suck. Like they will try to find whatever reason they can to not pay, and it's really frustrating.
Yeah.
As someone who is trying to sell to people that need insurance companies to pay so they can make a livelihood, so then they can buy my product.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm happy that you don't have to deal with them because, like I said, they're a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
So last question before we move on to rapid fire. What are your hobbies outside of fantasy football?
Does being a tired dad count as a hobby? Because
Absolutely.
that is a big one. I spend most of my time as a tired dad. No. I've taken up meat smoking over the last couple of years.
Oh,
I actually won a smoker from a Mission Barbecue Father's Day giveaway.
nice.
So when I won that, I was like, well, I better learn how to use it, right?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
the last couple of years, I've taken that on a little bit more aggressively, I guess you could say, and have been enjoying that a lot. It's a very rewarding hobby, because you get to make it and you get to eat it, enjoy it.
Yeah.
If you do it right, you know what I mean. So, yeah. So that's probably been my number one thing I've been into, since having kids. I guess it can be hard to make time for a ton of things, and
Yeah.
eventually the kids will hopefully enjoy the things you enjoy,
Yeah.
or you enjoy the things they enjoy. You know what I mean? So I'm just very open to that, but that's probably the biggest hobby I have at the moment. That and just kind of involvement in the church I go to.
Very cool.
I enjoy doing that, and yeah, so that's what I would say.
Awesome. Um, what is your favorite piece of meat you've smoked? That sounds like a really weird question, but it made sense in my head.
Yeah, no, for sure. The go-to for me are just wings.
Okay,
Just
yeah,
really simple to do, the least time consuming, easiest to prep, and like hardest to or easy or it's the hardest to screw up, right?
yeah, totally.
But the last thing I smoked was spare ribs. It was my first time trying it.
Ooh,
I just did a very simple method. You can just Google like the 3-2-1 method
yeah,
if you know what that is. And those turned out fantastic. So
nice,
even though wings are a pretty safe go-to, I think I gotta say that the ribs were probably my favorite. Yeah,
nice, very cool.
yeah.
Um, there's a show on Netflix, I can't remember the name of it, it's like Great American Barbecue Challenge or something like that. I don't know if you've watched it, but if you've got time, which I know as a tired dad, doesn't really come very often.
Right.
But if you get time, you should go watch it because they have like I think 10 or 12 people from all around the country that get into this barbecue competition. And it was really fun to watch. And I think they're coming out with the second season soon. So
I have heard of it. I haven't seen it myself. Perhaps in the off season,
yeah, definitely.
when I have a little bit more time. But yeah, that just anything I can do to learn what people who actually know or who are like more seasoned in it can
Yeah,
can do. Anything I can do to help perfect the process would be great.
absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, and it was just a fun show to watch. Like, they had one episode where they had to, like, smoke, like, roadkill, basically. So, like,
Oh
somebody got a possum, somebody got a squirrel, like, all these different random animals, and they had to figure out how to smoke them and what recipe they were gonna do for them. It was a lot of fun to watch. So,
wow, that's awesome.
yeah. So, now we're gonna move on to rapid fire. And this is really more like, I'm trying to think of a good like it's not real rapid fire. Like you can expand on these if you need to, but we'll go a little faster on these.
Gotcha.
All right. So first question. Oh, rapid fire. Excuse me. Favorite NFL team.
It's the Philadelphia Eagles.
Nice.
For better or worse.
Favorite sport that's not football.
Tennis. I
Interesting.
actually played a little tennis in college and absolutely love the game. Love it.
Very cool.
So tennis.
Favorite
Maybe
tennis
that's
player.
a unique. Um, gonna go with Roger Federer.
Love it. That's a good choice.
Um, you can appreciate a lot of what all the pros can do, but to me, he's just like at the top of the list there for me.
Yeah, totally. Favorite food.
Really big seafood fan. Um, prefer to get it in like Maryland or Florida.
Yeah.
We're not too far from the coast, so we can still get like decent fish.
Yeah.
But love seafood. Another one outside of that would be my wife's homemade mac and cheese. Had that
Oh.
couple times when we were dating and then engaged, and that was just nice reinforcement. Like, oh, this is probably a good decision that we're to get married. But really, it just never gets old. It's just a phenomenal dish. Yeah,
Awesome. Okay, so here's the question. Have you had her mac and cheese with your barbecue?
we have every pretty
Oh,
much every time I get the smoker out, she'll make that as a side. So
nice.
yeah, we eat pretty good for sure.
Nice. My mouth is watering, if you can't tell.
Yeah, yeah.
So, favorite sports movie?
This one was really difficult, and the first one that came to mind was Moneyball.
Oh,
I
good one.
I just really love screenplays by Aaron Sorkin, and this one is just.
You and me both.
And the weird thing is, I've only seen it a couple times, and it just kind of moves me in a unique way,
Yeah.
But it's really hard not to say like Remember the Titans. Really
Yeah.
hard not to say The Sandlot or Angels in the Outfield or something. But
Yeah.
for me, I the first one that came to mind was Moneyball amongst vast options for sure. It's a tough one.
Nice. I like that. Have you seen Trouble with the Curve?
I have not.
Okay, so if you like Moneyball, you may like Trouble with the Curve because it's kind of the opposite.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
so like how Moneyball is all like analytics and getting people on base and whatnot. Trouble with the Curve is more about like the feel and like the sound and like being able to see it when it comes
Interesting.
to evaluating players. So it's really good. And shameless plug, the guy that plays Rodrigo Sanchez, who is the prospect that I think the Braves end up drafting, I actually worked with him at a taco shop in Birmingham. His name's
There you go.
Galloway.
Nice.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
a really cool dude too. So favorite non-sports movie?
It's a Breakfast Club. It's just from the first time I saw it, it's really hilarious. It's really, touching and very dramatic too. I'm just a sucker for like John Hughes stuff as well, but the Breakfast Club has probably been my favorite movie since like middle school. You know what I mean? Like the
Nice.
first time I
Yeah,
saw it, it's just like wow, And another tough one, you know what I mean? Because there's just a lot of good stuff out there, but that is my go-to, has been for a long time.
awesome. Awesome. All right, favorite band?
Favorite band is the Beatles, and this is just instant answer for me. Grew up in a very Beatles happy household.
Nice.
But it wasn't like my dad would like hit my wrist if I heard like a Rolling Stones song or something. You know what I mean? It wasn't like that at all. I mean, he kind of brought my brother and I up on like Pink Floyd and Jimi Hendrix, a lot of
Yeah.
things from that era and stuff. But for me, just through and through, the Beatles are just incredible. And was very happy to land in that division for Scott Fishbowl. So
Nice.
that was just perfect. It was great.
How are you doing in Scott Fishbowl?
I am thankfully 3-4, and I say thankfully
Okay.
because I started 1-0, got like a little bit of an ego going, lost 4 straight. Uh,
Oh,
lot of injury issues. I mean, I can have all the excuses in the world, right? But there was
yeah.
a lot of legitimate problems. But I did win 2 in a row here
Very nice.
the last couple weeks, so doing okay now. I feel a little bit better about it, but it was just like, man, I did not want this to be my experience with it, but it is for a cause that's bigger than myself, and all this stuff. But
Yeah,
I at least feel a little bit more respectable with a 3-4 record rather than 1-4 from 2 weeks ago.
absolutely. That
But
totally
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
Um, so next question is favorite adult beverage?
I'm very much your typical like you're like a IPA bro. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Um, so definitely that's a good go to. But I really don't discriminate. Like I really like Cabernet wine and gin and tonics and
Yeah,
coconut rum and cokes. Stuff like that. So, but typically an IPA is the go to for sure.
very nice. Yeah, so I'm drinking, for those of you that couldn't see, Hop Valley Brewing Company's Cryo Stash Imperial IPA. So it's pretty good. I got a little variety pack a couple weeks ago that had
Nice.
this mango IPA, I think a hazy IPA, and then just a traditional IPA. And it's all been really good. So
Nice. Yeah. This time of year, one that I try to keep an eye out for is what I'm drinking now. It's a Yingling Hershey's Porter. So
ooh,
two big Pennsylvania giants
yeah,
collaborated, and
very
just the
cool.
smell of it is worth the price of the 6-pack. It just smells phenomenal. But it's really great. It only comes out this time of year, and it's only the second year that they've been bottling them because the
Okay,
first season or the first year it came out, it was only in certain bars or
yeah,
restaurants on tap. So you had to call the place to see if they still had it because it was gone. Like all the kegs were gone like
yeah,
immediately. So
I bet.
very happy that they're available now to have
Nice.
at home.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
There's a beer like that that I haven't found here, and I see it occasionally back home in Birmingham. Um, it's a Jim Beam and Budweiser collaboration. So they age the Budweiser in Jim Beam barrels for a certain time period, and it's
Okay.
really good. Um, I think my former co-host of the Nightcap makes fun of me for it, but I really like it. Um, and it sounds like something you may like too, based off of that Hershey's Porter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So last well, we still got a few. Next question. Favorite TV show.
Favorite TV show is Breaking Bad. Again, just a big fan of like entertainment, TV, movies, all that. But I think just from start to finish, it's the most solid TV show the whole way through. You know what I mean? Like some shows they start bad and they end bad. This
Mhm.
is just
Yeah.
phenomenal the whole way through.
Yeah.
So I really was, physically upset when the show was done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not too many shows I feel that way for. It's like I just wanted more of it, but I got all the Blu-rays, so I can do that anytime. But still,
Yeah.
yeah, I love Breaking Bad.
Awesome. Love that show. I've watched it a couple times through.
Gotcha.
Because it's that good.
That's right.
Excuse me.
Ooh, bless you.
Thank you. All right. Last two questions. Favorite defensive player, and you can give me right now, all time, or both if you're feeling frisky. And then the
Gotcha.
last question will be favorite offensive player, all time, now, or both.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, all-time favorite defensive player would be Brian Dawkins.
Very nice.
Just
Should
you
have
know,
seen that coming.
well, it's just one of these things. At the, I would say the height of my like Eagles fandom, like getting into it, he just was like he's basically a kind of player that I'm glad I never played like professional football because I wouldn't want to be on the same field, with him, like, coming down and potentially like knocking the snot out of me. You know what I mean? So I love Brian Dawkins. I guess like a more modern and Troy Polamalu too is another
Yeah.
one that
Great selection.
you just have to appreciate him. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm an Eagles fan. I married a Steelers fan and all this stuff. So it's like,
Oh, no.
so things get a little interesting on Sundays, but I can still appreciate what Troy Polamalu, meant to the game, and just the way he plays is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
You put your biases to the side. Favorite offensive player. I really love Russell Wilson.
Nice.
He just the efficiency that he can throw the ball with, and like the rushing, it's like he's just phenomenal. I just can't help but love Russ. All the little cheesy and corny stuff, off the field aside, it's just like
limited.
right, yeah. But like on the field, watching him play, it's just remarkable. So I like guys like him. I really love Deebo Samuel, another very highly versatile player. And then another player I really love a lot is actually Jason Kelsey. So he's a center, but dude is just hilarious, and just a lot of he's a really good player too, but as a personality, he is top notch. Him and like Jamal Williams are just so much fun. So a combination of those four players, for sure.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, Steve, that wraps up this episode of Kollectiv Knowledge. Thanks so much for coming on. This was a blast. This was definitely one of my favorite episodes so far. So I appreciate you. Before we go, make sure you guys follow Steve at Fantasy Ladder. And then there we go. You got a shirt. I love it. And then Steve, what are you working on, or what do you want to plug before we sign off?
Yeah, well, first, I appreciate you having me on. That this is phenomenal. I really appreciate who you are. As someone in the community, you're just really good to a lot of people. So I just really appreciate you having me on, and a lot of the stuff you do is really phenomenal work. So just want to say thank you for that. Some plugs. I do a weekly start sit article for IDP guys for offense. So a lot of defensive articles coming out over there, but we do offense as well. So I do the weekly start sits over there, going through every matchup, and I have like a little tier breakdown of like confidence scale, basically like who can you trust, Who do you want to start? Like, if you must, it's kind of a shaky matchup or situation, and then who's going to bust. So still a guy who you want on your roster, but don't want to throw into your lineup unless you really need to. So I have that coming out every week, usually on Thursdays, to get it out for the Thursday game. And then with Dynasty Pros, I do a weekly recap of how how each rookie is performing. So usually it's like the top performers. If Terrace Marshall gets like one catch for 12 yards on 3 targets, I'm not really going to talk about that. There's not a whole lot to say there. But I try to highlight.
Probably written a lot about Jamar Chase this year.
Oh yeah, no, he's and it's great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really awesome to see. And like last year, I did like the same series covering Justin Jefferson. I'm like, well, it's not going to get better than this. And here we are. It's really remarkable. Yeah. Yeah. So awesome. I do like the rookie report that comes out each week. Usually on like Saturdays, you'll see that get tweeted out. But yeah, so that's what I'm working on.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on. If you guys like this show, make sure you like and subscribe on our YouTube page, Fantasy Football Collective. You can follow us on Twitter at FF_collective. That's KOLLECTIV. This will be posted as an audio-only version on the podcast, which is at Fantasy Nightcap. And then you can follow me on Twitter at FFShaneB. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, ladies and gentlemen. This has been another episode of Kollectiv Knowledge.